Hello, I'm John Hamilton. I'm standing for Mayor of Lewisham in the election on Thursday for the Lewisham People Before Profit campaign. So in this short video clip I'm going to talk about secondary school provision in Lewisham. As you probably know, there is a grave shortage of secondary places, particularly in the northern half of Lewisham, mainly in the areas around New Cross, Deptford, Telegraph Hill and Brockley. And that's been caused partly by a lack of building programme over the last 20 years and partly by the closure of Telegraph Hill School on Walbutton Road by Steve Bullock, even after he knew there was a problem with secondary school places. That building had just had a new roof put on it and new windows costing £3 million, but instead of starting a new school up there after he closed down the existing one, we think it could have been opened in the same building starting with just year 7, but he didn't want to succumb to the pressure from parents in Telegraph Hill and he bulldozed it to the ground, building instead an unnecessary sixth form college called Crossways. We say unnecessary because Lewisham College already existed and exists and has a much wider range of courses that those children could have followed at Lewisham College on Lewisham Way. And in 2002, anger was so great that in Telegraph Hill Ward we elected our own Lewisham Education Action by Parents candidate, Helen Lefebvre, as a councillor for Lewisham. And throughout that period, 2002 to 2006, the New School campaign was very active in fomenting public support for our plans, in looking for suitable sites for a new school, and in trying to persuade Steve Bullock, the mayor, that one should be built. We did find many good sites for a new school, and you can see those in the site options document that's available from the download section of my website. One of them was a floating school that could have been built for $4.5 million within 11 months, a ship moored on the River Thames, just at Deptford Strand. Lewisham has a very short bit of riverbank there. That was rejected for no good reason at all, other than there might be insurance issues. Well, I hardly think so. Shipping insurance is the oldest form of insurance in the world. We also suggested various other land-based sites, Convoy's Wharf, Oxstalls Road. They were basically rejected by Steve Bullock's officers because they wanted to help developers build luxury housing in these places and didn't seem to care about the infrastructure that, of course, housing also needs. Anyway, we're at a position now where in 2006, after I stood for Mayor of Lewisham on a platform of a new school and saving Ladywell Pool, that Labour lost a lot of seats last time round in Ladywell, in Brockley and in Lewisham Central. And in fact throughout the borough. Liberal Democrats did particularly well, as did the Greens. So Steve Bullock was forced to rethink his plan to demolish Ladywell Pool. And he got a firm of international consultants, probably cost quite a lot, to look at all sorts of sites, some of which were totally potty, like the bus station in New Cross, obviously still being used as a bus station, they acknowledged. Failed to look at the sites that we had suggested properly, didn't consult with us, and came up with Lewisham Bridge Primary School as a possibility. Well, it is a thriving primary school. It does have a decent sized playground, but Steve Bullock decided he didn't really want another parents' campaign on his hands, and so I think he felt he could bribe those parents and suggested that we have an all-through school there, from 3 years old, nursery children, to 16-year-olds doing GCSEs, or not as the case may be. And he guaranteed that those children in the primary part, he would reduce it to one form entry, would have guaranteed access to the secondary school. Well, that's quite a prize if there's a problem getting a child into a secondary school in the north of Lewisham. But the parents didn't fall for it. At a packed meeting of residents, parents, teachers and others, the meeting totally rejected unanimously the idea of an all-through school on the site of Lewisham Bridge. It also rejected using the PFI, the Private Finance Initiative, to finance the building of any school elsewhere in the borough. But Steve Bullock ignored that view held by all those parents and local residents and pushed ahead with his plans. And here's the really shocking bit in my mind. Some of the parents at Lewisham Bridge who were continuing to campaign for their primary school to remain as it was spoke to English Heritage and got the building listed for its particular architectural merit. Well, Steve Bullock decided that even though the building had been listed, he would start busing the children to another temporary site while the buildings were knocked down and the new school built. He did this knowing that he couldn't knock down the building. Now the Socialist councillors, Chris Flood and Ian Page, put a motion forward at the council saying, wait until you've heard the result of your appeal against the listing, and the Liberal Democrats supported that. But to their shame, the Greens supported the Labour Party on that. They did some kind of a deal, I'm not sure what they got out of it, and the busing went ahead. Well, parents thought this was really not on. There was, after all, no planning permission for the building to go ahead at that time, and the old building was listed. So we occupied the roof of the kitchen of the school. You probably remember that. A year ago, we climbed onto the roof. I was the first person onto the roof, and we camped out there for about 13 weeks until we heard that the appeal that Steve Bullock had lodged had been rejected, and the building could not be pulled down, and he would have to think again about what to do. Well, the children stayed on at the temporary accommodation. Most unsatisfactory it was, with not adequate playground, not adequate toilets, and a journey that meant they had to get to their old school, Lewisham Bridge School, at 7:45 in the morning, which is quite early for youngsters of the age of 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, etc. They stayed there until January, and figures released under the Freedom of Information Act showed that the cost to the council of the security of the old school, of the busing of the site, and to refit the kitchen, which in their haste they had ripped out all the kitchen equipment, even before we got on the roof in fact, so just some point